Speaking of a playoff push, we have a matchup between the top three teams in the West tonight in Denver. And while this game can impact the Thunder's seeding, it still can impact their playoff path. So a win for the Thunder could push the Nuggets down to the 4 or the 5 seed and set up a potential round 2 matchup between Denver and OKC, while a Nuggets win keeps Denver in the driver's seat for the 3 seed. So the Nuggets currently own the league's longest active win streak, 10 games, and it's their first double-digit win streak since they set a franchise record 15 straight in 2013. Denver, as we know, has been dominant offensively during this stretch. They rank first in the NBA in points per game and field goal percentage. So, David, knowing that OKC's already locked up the top seed, they're going to rest 10 guys tonight. The impact, or I guess the outcome of this game, doesn't necessarily matter towards a potential playoff rematch between these two teams. But if they do get to the playoffs, can the Denver Nuggets upset the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Absolutely. I would still favor the Thunder, of course, is why we call it an upset. But I will never count Nikola Jokic out when you have a guy who's leading the league in rebounds and assists and playing at the level that he's playing. A couple of weeks ago, I had real concerns with this Nuggets team, especially the way they were playing defense, the way they were folding in the clutch. But since then, when they've had these games they've really needed to win for seeding, Aaron Gordon has stepped up defensively. Jokic, whose defense has been pretty atrocious ever since he had that injury earlier this season, since he's come back, his defense has stepped up. They're getting healthier at the right time. They need Christian Brown to hit some more of those wide open threes because teams are going to leave them open come playoff time. But this team, remember, was an Aaron Gordon injury away in Game 7 from potentially winning that series. And if you think that the Thunder are going to throw Caruso and Jokic again and that's going to work, it ain't going to work. They're going to have to figure something else out. So I will absolutely not count this Denver Nuggets team out against anybody in the playoffs.
I think if the Denver Nuggets were to get past San Antonio and then the Oklahoma City Thunder, we're talking about one of the more remarkable playoff runs in the history of the NBA. We're talking about Dirk Nowitzki and that run in 2011. We're talking about the Houston Rockets in '95 when they beat 3 50-win teams on the way to winning the NBA title. They have a chance. I don't know how great that puncher's chance is, but they have a chance. They have 7 guys who shoot 40% or more from 3. The three-point shot is the big equalizer in the NBA, especially in the playoffs when you have Jokic in a spread floor and possibly one defender in his face. I think we're kind of underselling how great the Thunder are. Like, they have been historically great after we stopped paying attention to them. Right? They lost the 4 or 5 games against the Spurs. They hit the little lull. Jalen Williams went out with the hamstring injury. Then he went out again with the hand injury, or vice versa. He was out with hand and then the hamstring injury. We stopped paying attention to him, but they've been on such a run in this second half of the season, outscoring opponents by 12 points a game. San Antonio has been on such a run but haven't been able to gain ground because Oklahoma City has refound itself. But when you get in the playoffs and you get Jokic, who's on a historical run, one of the most underappreciated great seasons in NBA history, I'm going to give him a shot. Not a great shot, but I'm going to give him a shot.
Perk, how do you see it?
Courtney, I'm going to answer the question. Can the Nuggets upset the Thunder in the playoffs? No. Simple. They can and maybe, and it's a strong possibility. No, the answer is no. You know why? Number one, the Thunder have the best player in the world, and his name is SGA, right? Joining the company again of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. 4 consecutive seasons, averaging 30, shooting over 50% from the field. Okay, so let's say this. Let's take the Thunder big 3 and Denver's big 3. Aaron Gordon, Murray, Jokic, Chet, J-Dub, SGA, and say those guys cancel each other out. Let's look at the rest of that roster. The Thunder depth, I trust more. When you talk about Jared McCain, who they picked up at the trade deadline, when you're looking at a guy like Aaron Wiggins, who had huge moments throughout their playoff run, Cason Wallace, who comes in an excellent two-way player, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso, Mitchell is a starting guard on any other team in the NBA. So when you're looking at the depth, I trust OKC depth more than I trust the Denver Nuggets depth outside of the big 3. And that's why I say that I don't give the Nuggets a chance. Also, when you get that deep, my thing is who's going to be their perimeter defenders outside of Aaron Gordon when you talk about the Nuggets? Peyton Watson, is he going to be 100% healthy coming off a hamstring injury that deep in the postseason? Is he going to be able to keep up? That's if Denver get past the San Antonio Spurs. But when it comes to OKC and Denver in that matchup, I understand we could revisit last year, and if was a fifth, we'll all be drunk if Aaron Gordon didn't injure his hamstring, and maybe they would have took it, but they didn't. And now this team has grown. In the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're wiser, and they know how to win, and they have home court advantage throughout the playoffs.
So your eyes got real wide earlier when Perk said that SGA is the best player in the world right now.
Well, it got wide when he said it so definitively, like Nikola Jokic doesn't exist. I think it is to the point where it's a conversation now, where Jokic and SGA are in the same conversation, but I still give the edge to Jokic just because of the way that he handles the game. I will say this for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When it comes late in the last 2 or 3 minutes, he's always going to get a shot up. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to make sure that you foul him or you give him enough space that he can create space to get a shot up, a quality shot up. I think Perk sometimes be tripping. I don't think Perk is wild. I don't agree with him, but I don't think he's tripping. That's all.
Yeah, we're looking at the best closer in the game in SGA, right, and a guy who is leading a great offense against the best overall player in Nikola Jokic. And if you're talking about these historical runs, if Nikola Jokic can beat Wemby, and then you can beat this Thunder team, and you win a championship with him playing the way that he's playing, you better clear a spot out that top 10 all time when you're talking about Jokic, because this will be that type of run that cements you as one of those type of greats.
Good summer conversation. When we're all back here, we're going to do that one in July.
We can say the same thing about SGA.
Yeah, that's fair. And we will. Perk, we got to go on this one, but I do think that you guys all kind of laid the table for that one. Wemby is also somebody that might be in that conversation one day. He's proving to be a transcendent star, with Big Perk calling him unguardable. But someone here might have a blueprint for slowing him down. Don't go anywhere.
See how they navigate things. It's their first time, being a favorite in the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff series in almost 20 years. It's unlikely a team is going to go from that to making the finals. They also don't really have a reliable second ball handler and scorer on the perimeter, which is what you typically need to get all the way through in the playoffs. JB Bickerstaff has not had a ton of success in the playoffs. There's a lot of reasons to be skeptical of Detroit. At the same time, they play incredibly hard. They guard really well, and they've got an incredible closer in Cade. So, they're going to be a really interesting test case of, how much experience matters. It's typically mattered a lot in the playoffs in the NBA, and we'll see if it matters for them this time around.
We're talking with Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA senior writer here on Unsportsmanlike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Of course, you read him ESPN.com, you see him on TV, as well as Hoop Collective podcast. And I don't know if you know this, Tim. We on this show listen to the Hoop Collective podcast. I don't know if you've heard.
I know. I do. I do know.
On Wednesday's episode, you guys alluded to, and this was coming off of a conversation about the Bulls cleaning house. You guys flat out said, Wendy said it, that he believed, and you guys all believe, that next Tuesday's taping, meaning less than a week from now, will be a lot about firings around the NBA, that regime changes, et cetera. Final weekend of the season this year, regular season. How ugly do you anticipate it getting?
There'll be several jobs that are open. I think some of the ultimate some of the ultimate outgrowth of that will come down to what happens in the playoffs, right? So, there will be, there'll be coaches from teams that don't make the playoffs that get bounced early next week, and there could be some front office turnover as well. But I think, there's also a good number of teams that, stuff could happen down the road. Like last year, for example, the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau after making the conference finals, right? There's a lot of even matchups across the league. Like we just talked about how wide open the East is, for example, right? And so when you have a lot of teams that all think they can get farther than they can, just from a pure number standpoint, it leads to a lot of disappointment. And when there's a lot of disappointment, there's a lot of change, whether it's roster or management-wise. So I do think it's going to be pretty active from a change standpoint this summer, and I think a lot of stuff's going to happen around the league, and it's probably going to start happening as soon as Monday.
Tim, I want to get your perspective on what happened on Tuesday in the Kings-Warriors game where Doug McDermott intentionally fouled Seth Curry while the Warriors were in the penalty. The league came out and said that they did not think it was a tank job by the Sacramento Kings. I wanted to get your perspective on what happened in that situation, and is this a potential issue for the league that has to be rectified?
No, not at all. I mean, I think the fact that the Kings made it clear pretty quickly their coach just messed up, I think, is more of a commentary on the Kings than it is some sort of tanking situation. I mean, and anybody watching the game, I think if you've ever watched a basketball game before, I mean, yeah, the Kings fouled in the bonus, and you could question the strategy Doug Christie was employing there to try to make sure he could use his use it or lose it timeout, which is you have a timeout go away after the clock goes past 3 minutes in the fourth quarter or in a quarter. But the Kings drew up a three for Doug McDermott out of the timeout. So, like, it's not like they were trying to hold the ball and just foul the Warriors to give them points. So, yeah, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. There had to be an investigation of it. I didn't think there was anything to investigate, and I don't think there's some grand conspiracy going on.
Okay.
Tim, Joel Embiid.
There's a lot of other egregious examples of teams tanking games than the Kings doing one strategy mistake when they pretty clearly were not trying to tank in that moment of a competitive game.
Well, a team that famously said trust the process, the Sixers, they are dealing with yet another Joel Embiid injury, this time in emergency surgery after being diagnosed with appendicitis. This guy just feels like it's one thing after another, Tim, when it comes to his health. How do the Sixers manage their future moving forward, knowing that Joel Embiid is under contract?
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like, I had a lot of people hit me yesterday just saying you really can't make this up. Like, you know, the Sixers were probably the most dangerous team in the bottom half of the East playoff bracket. They were playing well. They were healthy. Paul George is back from suspension. You know, Embiid was back on the court. Maxey is back on the court. They were playing pretty well. You know, and then this just happens out of the blue, and he has to have, you know, an appendectomy in Houston yesterday. Like, it's just crazy. It's just totally crazy. And the season is likely over. Just from a realistic turnaround standpoint, maybe he can come back sometime during the first round, but it's going to be hard, assuming the Sixers can get out of the play-in, which is no certain thing. And, yeah, it just stinks. Like, it's just rotten luck. You know, my guy Tim McMahon, I said something along the lines of this guy's the most unlucky player in the history of the NBA. And, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that at some point. Like, you know, I mean, Bell's palsy a couple of years ago in the playoffs against the Knicks, like, you know, it's just crazy the number of things that have happened to this guy, and it's just a shame because the Sixers had a real chance to be an interesting spoiler for one of these higher seeded teams, and that seems like it's going to be a pretty big challenge now.
Tim, will Giannis ever play another game with the Bucks?
I mean, he probably shouldn't, but there's a lot of things that should have been done differently in Milwaukee, and we're not. So I don't know. I think if we've learned anything about this Giannis situation, it's not to assume that he's going to be gone from Milwaukee based off how everything has gone the last several years. So I will not be making any proclamations about Giannis and the Bucks. And who knows? Maybe he plays one of these last couple games and plays with his brothers, and you know, we'll see him out there at some point before the end of this season. But yeah, I mean, I think the NBA as a whole, the NBA community, would love for this story to be over, just so no one has to talk about it anymore. And I think it would make sense for the Bucks to move on and start fresh. I think it would make sense for Giannis to move on and start fresh. But we'll see if that's in the cards, or if we're doing this again in the fall when training camp opens.
Tim, as a Lakers fan, it was tough to see two of the three best players on the team in Europe this week getting treatment for soft tissue injuries. But everybody wants to know whether or not Luka or Austin Reeves have any chance at getting back for a first-round playoff series.
I mean, I'm not going to rule it out, but it's not likely. You know, grade 2 strains take a while to heal, and it's going to, you know, the one thing I'll say though, Danny, is the first round of the playoffs is really long. Like, it's really drawn out. And so, you know, maybe there's a chance one or both of them can be back by the back end of it. But, you know, it's less likely than it is likely. And obviously for a Laker team that was feeling really good just a week or two ago, it's pretty, I mean, I guess they got hurt last Thursday. I mean, it is just really unbelievable how much things have changed since the start of the month. Like, the Lakers came into the month with, they're, you know, playing well. LeBron had settled into the third star role pretty nicely, and they're feeling good about where they're at. And it's completely turned on its head in a pretty short amount of time.
Last thing here with Tim Bontemps, ESPN NBA senior writer, of course, Hoop Collective podcast, ESPN app, wherever podcasts are found. Tim, of all the hypothetical first-round matchups, the best possible first-round matchup, the most must-watch and listen to here on ESPN Radio matchup is which one?
It's a good question. I mean, I would have said the Sixers against whoever they play. I'll say Charlotte against whoever they play.
Ooh.
The Hornets have been unbelievable for the last 2 months. They have the second best net rating in the NBA since like mid-January. The only team that's been better is the Spurs, who've gone like 30-2 in their last 32 games. They're going to be a really interesting matchup for whoever they play. And you know, if they get lined up with Detroit, I mean, you guys remember there was that big brawl that happened a couple of months ago between those two teams. Be a lot of venom if that series happens. I just was at Celtics Hornets on Tuesday. That was a really fun game. Boston ended up winning late, but yeah, I think a decent amount of the drama has come out of the first round with the Lakers injuries and with the Sixers injuries, but the Hornets are going to be a tricky team to play if they can get in. And I think they've got a chance to make an interesting series for whoever winds up facing.
Tim Bontemps, you'll see him on Get Up at 8 a.m. Eastern. Hoop Collective Podcast, ESPN.com, NBA Today. Tim, thank you as always. We appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Tim. That is fascinating. The Hornets, you're going to see them on Sunday.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about them very quickly? We went earlier this season, like for 2-second slip-ins on the show of like, oh my God, do they realize this is professional basketball? Like, because LaMelo would just play this AAU brand of basketball where just like, all right, I'm going to shoot a three from half court, even if I miss it. And like, it was awful.
But he ain't been missing a lot lately.
No, and now it's changed completely. Charles Lee, head coach, give him a ton of credit for changing this thing around here.
Conconibble has cooled off a little bit. So
but still, you've already exceeded expectations. The fact that he's even in the Rookie of the Year conversation with
no question. I feel like Charlotte is one of those dangerous teams that you have to watch. Because they're so naive that they don't know that they're not supposed to be here.
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah, and
I would take, though, Denver, Minnesota hypothetical matchup over
with
Charlotte.
Edwards healthy, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be the best for me.
But beef stew versus Diabate and Jalen Duren, I like the backstory.
Nuno, you have anything on Jalen Duren?
I was just going to say.
Nuno, yesterday, after we told the story about Jalen Duren, comes on the air and tells the exact same story about Jalen Duren. Why was he not listening? Because he was watching videos of JWoww from the Jersey Shore fighting. That's not a joke. We're Unsportsmanlike, presented by Progressive Insurance.